Well, hello everybody. Welcome to my workshop. This is what we're making today. So we're going to be making one of these Christmas carousels. Welcome to the workshop up here at Miller's Farm Shop on a wet, dark and rather windy afternoon. So this is what we're going to do, hopefully to brighten up the afternoon and your Christmas. At the moment, this one doesn't have any decorations on it. It's just rotating, but by the time we finish the next one today, I'm going to make a couple of little trees, a couple of little snowmen, just as a decoration on there. We're going to talk more about these as well as the afternoon goes on. There's an awful lot of pieces to make on this one. We got 12 impellers, 12 impeller holders. We got a hub. We've got a finial. We've got a center column. We've got a little base here. We've got the main base, of course. We've got 4 feet. We've got 4 candle holders. There's a joke in there somewhere, Tom, 4 candles. And we've got 2 uprights. Only the Brits would get that, I'm sure. 2 uprights and an arch. Now, we're going to do all the turning bits. We're not going to be able to do everything this afternoon. When I say we're not going to be able to do everything, I'm not going to take you to a bandsaw. I'm not going to take you to a pillar drill. I'm not going to take you to a planer thicknesser and all those sorts of things. However, we are going to do all the bits that are turned. And I'm going to show you how to do everything, even if I'm not going to physically do it. So we're going to get there. Now, one of the things we've done for you, Tom's on questions and everything like that. So don't forget, if you've got any questions, burning questions, feed them to Tom the Farmer. He'll then relay them to me. Hello, Tom. How are you? He is there. He is a real person.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I am here. Yeah, sorry.
So
two things at once.
Two things at once.
Yeah.
With that in mind, if we do miss a question, re-ask it, because there's a lot of talking, a lot of chat. So Tom's got to sort of change the cameras around and look at the questions and look at what's going on as well. So just re-ask if we've forgotten something. What was I going to say? Oh, there are plans for this one as well. And they are sellable plans. I'm ever so sorry. I sell them on Etsy, so we've put a link to that in the chat. We pinned it, I believe.
Pinned it.
Pinned it at the top. So there we are. Now look, I just wanted to prove that this works. There's nothing to do with the fans that are going on all around me. In fact, let me turn that fan off just to, if you can hear it. I do apologize. It's my dust extraction fan, which I'm just turning off. Dust extraction fan, the air filter fan, not the main dust extractor. But just to prove that this is pure candle power that makes these lovely little creations move. And again, it's a bit of a German tradition, and one of my visits to Germany that really, really sort of got my interest up in these. This is a single tier. Obviously, this is an hour. I'm going to try my best to keep it to an hour. This is a single tier version. But Tom, would you put that picture up of the triple tier one that I've done a year before last? I plan to do a couple more of the triple tier ones as well, just because they're wonderful little heirloom pieces. Now this one, and very traditionally, you alternate the scenes on a Christmas carousel with nativity figures, nativity scenes, and or woodland figures, and that just depicts the area of Germany that it comes from, down in the lower part of Germany on the Czech border, the famous sort of well-known towns of Seifen and Obenhau, where you find a lot of these. They are heavily wooded areas, and you get a lot of wildlife, sort of wild boar, deer, and all those sorts of things. This one that you're seeing in the picture is literally pure nativity, and we're going to look at doing nativity in the next live that we do. Tom, would you pop that other picture up as well, the nativity full? It's going to be in a fortnight's time, so just before Christmas, arguably a little bit too late, but something to consider for next year. And these figures are the type of things that we would decorate our Christmas carousels with. So nice little scene there. All turned, of course. That's what we're all about here. So as much turning as possible. Right. Hoping not to set the fire alarm off. Let's blow that one out for now. Move him over. I'm in the middle of a fairly big production run of Christmas carousels. We've got 14 on the go at the moment. 4 out there. The other 10 are in various modes of being finished. So yeah, fingers crossed. I'm going to turn that fan on very gently just to stop that fan letting the fire alarm off again, Tom, just in case. Any questions we can go for at the moment, or are you good? You're all good? Good. Well, let's get started. There's quite a lot of... I always say this when it comes to our lives. There's quite a lot of work holding solutions, and everybody's going to make them differently, and I would assume in many cases that people are going to make one at a time or only make one because of the amount of pieces. The other thing I would also say when it comes to a project like this, it's not a difficult project. It looks difficult on the outset, but it doesn't matter what your ability as a turner is, whether you've just started or whether you've been turning for a long time. Everybody can do this. It's achievable by everybody, because if you take every single piece and analyze it, it's a simple bit of turning. Doesn't matter what tools you use, whether you're using carbide tools, whether you're using skew chisels, whether you're using spindle gouges, whatever tool's your favorite, you can make this project. It just takes a bit of time because of the amount of pieces that are involved. That's the reason that I said I've done a little bit of prep for you. So we're going to do one of each piece so you can see how to physically make it. And then you can keep this video, keep looking back, and just repeat the amount of time. So, for instance, we're going to start off by doing a little bit of sanding first. So I'm going to put a sanding table in. We're going to sand some of the flat pieces, and we're going to explain a little bit more about those. If I can just grab a few of the blanks ready to go, I just want to show you a couple of things that I think might be of interest. So if we take individual pieces, I'm going to show you all of this. We'll show all of this to the camera a minute. Let's get a few of these pieces out, because I spent a long time making these and trying to make it repeatable and easier for myself. The best way I can describe these, and again, I'm talking production terms, is don't make for one. If you make for one, it becomes a little bit harder. So what I tend to do, so here is, let me get that so the camera can see that you can just see the shape of the top arch there. Okay, I've drawn that top arch on. I've also got 3 lines. These lines represent my drilling areas. Okay, so the top one comes through, and that's the top hole. The bottom 2, that they are the holes, the 8mm holes for the columns that hold the arch up. It's much easier to drill those as a square piece like that than you go and cut a piece out like this and then try and drill the holes. Yeah, the top one might be fairly straightforward, but these 2 won't be. So drill your drillings first, then you can cut that on your scroll saw or bandsaw. I tend to use a bandsaw. I use a little 1/4-inch blade, and it's quite easy to cut into that. We're going to look at sanding this area in a minute, so just to make life easier. The other thing to note, on most of the pieces that I make, all of this is done as a long section, so that might be 1 meter long, 3 foot long, and I'll mark out various amounts of these, and then I'll cut through, because I can put this through a planer thickness. So that means then that side and that side is nice and clean. All I have to do is a little bit of light sanding and it's finished. That is exactly the same as the main base. So that would be a long plank, thickness to size, and then cut my discs out. The same as this one. In fact, on this one, I'll show you, I've kept one of these in a long length just to show for several reasons. So planed on the back, planed on the front surface, and then for my own safety, drilled whilst in long lengths. If you're trying to drill a little tiny section like that with that size of drill bit, your fingers are dangerously close. Even if you clamp, it takes a long time. Where if you do a long piece and then cut the individual pieces up, it saves you a huge amount of time. 2 holes in this one. We're going to talk more about the individual pieces in a moment, but 2 holes. We've got the main 42mm one here, and then we've got a 6mm hole running through the center. The 6mm hole is just our joining hole. Again, like I said, we'll explain. I just wanted to talk a little bit about all this planing and the reason behind planing before I do anything else. It cuts out a huge amount of work later on. And I would say even if you're doing, just one of these carousels, it's going to help you. Whilst that camera is on that fantastic position, let's have a look at our bearings. Bearings for these are glass. So I get these from Germany, from Xifen, like I said. And there we are. There is a glass bearing. Maybe if I get nice and close to that camera, you can see it literally is a cup. Little cup bearing, specifically made for this job. There we are. So I have those. I do have a few of those in stock if anybody wanted to go to my website and order. There are a few. I don't have a huge amount. There are some there. Also, I tend to use just silver steel for the main central pin, and on that silver steel, I grind. I put this in my cordless drill, and then I grind a point, so it has to be to a needle point. That pin then locates into the cup bearing that I've just showed you, and that gives you the least amount of friction to allow these things to move. And that's what you need. The less friction, the better. And then let's just have again a few of these templates. I've got just to make things repeatable, template everything, and with all the same markings. So little card templates, or you can go to plywood templates to do the same thing. That's a foot, that's the arch, that's the impeller, for instance. And I went through making these for a lot of carousels, making things a little bit too heavy. What I tend to do now is buy 2mm model maker's ply. So it's birch ply, 2 millimeters, rather than trying to plane down timber to that size or anything like that. Nice light plywood. And then the impeller holders, I'll explain more about those in a minute. They're cut to hold that 2mm ply. So lots of little tips and techniques there. We're going to make everything, like I say, at least one of everything to show you. Yes, Tom, we got a question.
Yeah, Jonathan just wants to know what size the silver steel was.
3mm. 3mm silver steel. Okay, let's make a start. I'm so many bits down here. I do have a hub made up. Now we're going to look at the indexing on the lathe as well. Something that people don't use a huge amount of time is the indexing. The lathe I've got here is quite nice. It has a really good indexing feature. It's 36 positions. I'm only using 12 of them, so divisible by 3. The options are, of course, this is another one that I've got. This is the Paul Howard indexing system. Again, I find this is one of the best ones. I'm going to show you. I'll get it out of the box in a minute. This is from Simon Hope, so Hope Wood Turning. This one, again, you've got a plate. This particular one goes onto my lathe here, and that literally goes over the register, and then you put your chuck on it. Okay, I don't know whether you can. Yeah, you can see that perfectly. And then you have just a little indexing arm which attaches to the lathe, and so you can divide your head up into 3. Really like that one. If my lathe didn't have one, I'd probably use that more often. That one I get out every now and again if I just want to do the odd one job, but because of that does the job for me. But that's, in my opinion, that's probably one of the better ones you're going to get, the Paul Howard one. And like I said, that's Hope Wood Turning. Okay, we're going to start. I think we're going to start from the ground up. We're going to start with a little bit of sanding. So some of those pieces that aren't turned. So I'm going to use my little sanding table. So this is an Axminster product, this one. And I'm not selling anything. I'm just telling you where I get it from. But we got the Paul Howard indexing system. Got the Axminster tool rest system. And this is known as a carving plate. Okay, this little bit. And this just literally screws onto the tool rest system. And then your little stop collar, you can set your collar to central. So getting the height centered on your lathe. So that's my platform. We're going to use a sanding disc with my chuck. Okay, so the SK114 here. I've got just one of the sanding discs. We've got quite a few sanding discs, but this tends to be my go-to one. This one. There we are. Let's get that around so it can do some good. Get that right up. There we are. Can all see good there. Yeah, looks pretty good. Let's start with, let's get the things that we need to sand first. So I've got the feet, the 4 feet. Again, same thing. All I'm doing with these is cutting a long length, putting it through the plane of thicknesses so they're all the same, and then chopping them into little bits. Okay, so we've got lots of little bits. You think if you're doing 14 like I am at the moment, there's quite a few little bits. And then once I've got that, I'm going to use my template. Okay, just making things repeatable. Draw your holes, draw the little curve. That leaves you then with what I've got there. Curve on the end, which we're about to sand in, and the holes are already in position. This hole will hold, connect to the main base. This will be the candle holder here. So that's one we're going to sand in a second. We're also going to sand, let's do one of the oak ones. We're going to sand one of the little tops. Okay, now obviously the convex curves we can get away with on our sanding disc, but the concaves we're going to look at something else to do those as well in a moment. And then what else have we got to sand flat? I got a feeling that's it. I think that's it. Oh no, impellers. Impellers. So we need to end up with impellers lovely and clean like this. They start off again from sheets, like I said, sheets of ply, and I've marked those out with my template. Again, it's the same sort of thing of just a little card template, but again, you could just sacrifice one of the bits of plywood and create that as a template. That is, I don't know whether the camera can see that, but it is marked out with a pencil line there. We're going to sand to that as well. So let's sand these bits first. I have prepped up another completed hub there ready for finishing, but we're going to make every single piece so you can see exactly how that's done in a minute. So just so we can crown him at the end, I've just completed one of those ready to go. Right, let's get dust extraction going and start sanding. So we'll do the feet first. Lathe speed to 0, turn the lathe on, then up. A little bit of light so everybody, or so I can see what I'm doing. Goggles, goggles, goggles. There we are. So we're just literally just going to sand that to shape. It doesn't take very long at all when you're on a nice big disc like this. And if you don't want to use a template, use a quarter or a 10p piece to get that same sort of arc on the back. Clean up that area there. Clean that up. 1 foot done. Another one done. What I like about these as well, it gives you a chance to use up lots of those scrap ends from the workshop. I've got so many different timbers in here. This particular oak that I'm using for the feet, these come from a settle that I got from a place called Burnham-on-Sea. It's one of the old church settles that come out, and it's made a huge amount of projects for me, but it's quite nice putting it into a Christmas carousel. There we are. Now I'll do the convex wherever I can get to. I'm not worrying too much about getting into that cove because we're going to put a little drum on in a minute. That's good. I always tend to turn over because just to take away those little fibers that pick up on our other side. There we are. So we've got another 2 curves to do on this one. We've got the big central curve in a moment, and then we've got this curve here. We'll do that with the drum. Just while we got this one on there, though, let's do one of the impellers. Be careful with this. This sander will take it away, take the material away really, really quickly, and it's ever so easy to go a little bit too far. This has been one of Vicky's jobs this week. She's been cutting them all out. She sands them normally. Just a little touch, just to take away any of those little edges, and then a bit of a hand sanding once you finish that, just to blend things and to soften things a little. All right, so that's that. Right. So we've got some feet done. We're going to start building this as we go as well. So let's put our impeller to one side. We're going to set up now to do those internal coves, those concaves. So we can take away, I can take away that. We'll take off our disc. There we go. That can go to one side. We may need it again in a minute. I can't remember whether I'm going to or not. Let's take off the chuck. Now, we've already mentioned Simon Hope. We're going to mention him again. drum sander, probably one of the best drum sanders you're going to get. I've bought a couple of different sizes and the Morse taper to go into the lathe. So 2 Morse taper. That then, I won't be able to undo it because it's been on there for a while. And that has my 50mm drum, which is going to slot in there. I've got another couple of drums here. So there's another one. I think that's about a 40mm. The thing I like about these is they got Velcro. They got that hook and loop system. So again, using a hook and loop back on your abrasive means that you can just very quickly get your abrasive on. You don't have to buy expensive drums and things like that that slip over, or expensive sleeves. That just works really, really nicely. Also has a hole up here on this end where I can just bring up the tailstock just to support it nicely as well. Then I'm free, ignore the tool rest, then I'm free to start sanding again. Let's go to the internals, just keeping an eye on my lines. Yes.
Just move your light a little bit. I've got the overhead. Just like just remove the. Oh,
there you go. Better. You're just blending in those internal curves. Yeah, that's nice. And then the same here. Just cut into the template. There we are. Just looking for any sort of flat areas. I mean, I want to make sure that we've got no lumps and bumps. So just feel for those. If you have, just blend them in a little. There we are. That one's finished. Maybe a little bit of hand sanding, but that's pretty much done. Okay. And of course, we've got the holes, both the top pin hole and we've got the 2 holes for our columns as well. Just to note, this top pinhole is slightly bigger. So the center pin's 3mm. This is 3.5. Again, you want as little friction as possible. So if you find you're doing it through a 3mm hole, it'd be too tight. It needs to slop in there quite nicely. But on the other hand, if it's too big, it'll lean over too much, and then you get a friction in other ways. So it needs to stand nice and upright, but not too leany. If that's a word. There we are. I'm going to turn dust extraction off for a minute. So just by blinking then we've made a load of pieces. Let's start building. Oh no, we can't stop building yet because I haven't done any candle holders. But my way, we need to get a chuck out next. So if we've done all 4 feet, we've done the main arch. Okay, a little bit of hand sanding, but we've done that. So let's pop those out of the way. What else have we done? We've done the impellers. You know how to do the impellers. Just sand them, 2mm ply. I get that online. You can get it in packs of 6 or 10 in A4 size. So you get loads and loads of impellers. Then we're going to go on to the candle holders. So what I need to do, and I've done 3 of them already for you. So we need to do basically this. I tend to make them the shape of cauldrons. And there's just these little fellas here. They then allow me to put in the little brass liner that fits in there, and then in turn your candle in there as well. Okay, so quite a simple shape. The reason we've got this hole at the bottom is because the dowel has to go in, and then the foot we've just made fits onto that. Okay, so if I put that one together, goes right up through. There we go. And so we have a completed foot, which then goes onto the main base. 4 of those needed. So we're going to turn one now. Yes, Tom.
A couple of questions, mate. The gentleman Woodturner wants to know, do you ever use one of those abrasive cleaning blocks?
I do. Without moving away. There we are. I don't know how I've had that probably about 10 years now. It lasts ages, yeah. But yes.
And another question from Matthew: when you sell these, how do you package them, either for shipping or for someone to take home?
Oh, I've got one in a box out there at the moment. They're a box that is exactly the right size for the base, including the feet. And all I do then is take off the that section there, so that lifts off, and then that just fits down the side inside the box. So that's it. If you're gonna transport them in terms of send them a distance, then I'd worry about that. To be fair, even the single tiered ones, I don't like doing that. If you had to, then everything comes apart. Not a lot of this is glued. Not a lot of this is glued. So each one I'll take apart, and then package it that way. And then the new owner will then have to assemble it. I don't like doing that because I like to have it assembled for when they see it. But yeah, if it has to, sort of thing. Yeah, so not much glue involved. There are a few areas, but not much glue. Okay, that one there. So, all right, Tom, move on. So next bit, let's say, so we've done the feet. We're going to move on to the candle holders. So as I said already, there's the start of our little candle holders, drilled for our candle cups, and then a little 6mm hole through the bottom. That's going to fit over a little drive dog. So it's just a little cone. It's just a piece of sapele, this is. It doesn't matter what the timber is, just a little cone. Do your kiss test on the lathe. Make sure everything's centered up nicely. So that slips over. And then we should be, I was just about to say we should be fairly straight, but that isn't. Why isn't that not straight? That'll do. That's good. And then our tool rest, which is fallen on the floor. So we're running out of space there. So what I'll do, just slacken everything off. Just wind that handle so the casting of the tailstock goes back. And that gives me a little bit more room in this area here then, you see. And then before you go any further, give it a bit of a tweak, a bit of a tighten.
Another question, Paul, before you start. Are there any woods that you would not use for this, or woods that you try to stay away from using?
Not for this project, I don't think, really. Your usual thing, the allergens, if there's anything you're allergic to, so I know is a big one out there. A lot of people are allergic to cedar as well. And I used to do a lot of these out of cedar because when the impellers, if you make cedar impellers, with the heat of the candles, the smell of the cedar comes out, which is great. But that means that I then have to plane my cedar down. Instead of using the birch bark, I've got to plane the cedar down to 2mm, which is a bit of a chore.
Another question. Stuart wants to know, what's your advice in terms of dust? Do you normally use a dust mask as well as extraction when sanding, or is the extractor sufficient?
No.
He appreciates you can't use the mask while you talk.
So yeah, I'm just going to go there just very briefly to show you the mask that I'm wearing on a day-to-day basis. I have two that I use. So I use my everyday, my go-to is the JSP, the Axminster Evolution JSP. That's okay for sort of a small amount of dust. Everyday turning, I would say. When I'm doing a lot of bowl turning, I'm making clouds of dust. So if I'm doing chopping boards, which I'm looking at over there at the moment, then I'll go right up to my VersaFlows. The VersaFlows has a bigger battery, better filtration. So when I need just a mask on steroids, I go to that one. Difference is 260 quid, about 1,000 plus, a bit more, I think. So, however, you only get one set of them. Dust extraction on as well. Air filter up on the ceiling over there also. So everything. Just throw everything at it. the thing with, if you're just looking at a dust mask, the dust mask will get clogged up in minutes without dust extraction. If you're just using a dust extraction, you have no first line of defense yourself. If you just use an air filter, it has to go past you to get to the air filter. So it really, unfortunately, the bank balance is going to suffer, because you do need everything. You need a dust mask, you need a dust extractor, and then I would also advise an air filter as well. Okay, which is tough when you're just starting out. It's really tough, I know, but no, don't skimp on that. Okay, are we all right? Good. And saying that, it's one of the perils and pitfalls of being a demonstrator. Is having to talk via a mic, and that's really difficult then to wear a powered mask, because you've got fresh air blowing through all the time. It may come a time where I'm going to just have to do it, and just going to do it and have the little bit of muffling as well. So we'll see. It's an hour at the moment every fortnight. So okay, I'm just gonna, this is the candle holder itself, so make that little cauldron shape. I've taken the corners off just to help with breakout. And I'm using a little 6mm gouge, a little 1/4 inch gouge here. And I want a cauldron, basically. That's all I'm doing. So a little cove. Keep it clean. Make sure every cut is a clean cut. Then we're just going to bring the back up. And we need 4 of those. 3 I've done already for you, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's just have a quick look at that before I start sanding. That's where we're going to start, and we're going to go through the grades, dust extraction on. Good dust extraction as well. So I'm just going to kick that nice and close. Dust extraction will be better the closer it is. You've got better suction near the right at the front. It's just one of them things. Yes, Tom?
John wants to know, is that the robust tool rest? And what do you think of the accents the version of them?
That is the robust tool rest, yes. The Axminster version of them are fine. I like a solid tool rest. I don't like a screw-on tool rest. That's my reasons. But to me, if I'm going to get, that is the Rolls-Royce of tool rest, if ever there was such a thing to be said. But a tool rest, I think tool rests are so important. It's like tires on a car, they're the tool rests are what you're using all the time. It's your contact. The reason I like them is because of the narrow band here. So again, small amount of surface contact on the tool. However, being such small radius on that means that your contact area, your support area, is really close to the work that you're trying to turn. And that's the only reason I don't use as much the supply tool rests, because they're a little bit bigger and they're a bit more cumbersome. But no, the ones the Axminster are doing this sort of look-alike is that they're okay. They work okay. I just like a solid tool rest myself. There we go. So I'm really rushing through this, but I hope you can see. Actually, each piece is quite a simple piece of turning. We're going to use a wax sanding seal. Really, I won't bother on this one, just so you know. A sanding seal would normally be used. Little bit of, I'm using microcrystalline. Now, really, with your microcrystalline, you want to leave it, and that's fine, because I'll buff these at the end anyway. I'm going to put a buffing wheel on and buff it all up. So if I just pop that on. There we are. That'll do. So there we have. I grabbed the others that I made just before you turned up. There we are. One that we've already put together. We're going to start putting things together in a moment. I just want to do the base first, and then we'll get all this stuck together. All right, but there we are. We're starting to make a thing. Okay. Stop that dust extraction just momentarily. I'm going to change this little drive over. going to put another one in. So this one, I'll use this one on things like German smokers, nutcrackers, carousels, and it's a drive plate, or push plate's another name for them, and I use them. We've got big ones here. Let me grab this one off the wall. This is another one that I use for reversing bowls onto. There we are, slightly different. That one's got a radius edge, so reverse bowls over that, but they're drive plates, basically. And drive plates are awesome. They're cheap. They don't take much to make. This is a bit of scrap wood, and this particular bit is a bit of pine. Nice flat face, bit of router matting, non-slip matting on that surface. My main base, which we'll talk about now, I've prepped a little. So this is a piece of old good pine. This is from an old shelf. This was actually. I've drilled quite a few holes in here. We've got a 13mm hole. That's going to take the glass bearing. Okay. Another hole through, going all the way through. That central hole really is just there just to line things up in a moment. We've also got the 2 holes here. These are going to be for the pillars to hold everything up. And then on the underside, we got the 4 holes for the 4 feet. Okay, 6mm holes here, so 1/4 inch. And we've got 8mm for the pillars on the top. Okay, that's the only preparation I've done there. To do that, I've just created this little card template. Card template has the cross there at right angles for the feet. And then I've got one going in between the feet, so they're not at a funny angle to the feet. In between the feet, look, we've got the uprights for the pillars, so they're nice and symmetrical. Now, I'm going to change my tailstock sensors. At the moment, I've got a single pointed tailstock sensor on there. So we're just going to change that. No, I've made that bigger, so I won't do that. Ignore everything I've just said. The only reason we're going to change it is for my ring center. Ring center is important. That's going to go in the slot, and that's going to stop any splitting that we might get. There we are. That's going to go on there. Ring center is going up. Bedding in nicely. It cannot be out of true. Because we're using the central hole, it cannot be out of true. So locks up against the face. And now because we've put this through a planer and a thicknesser, I don't have to touch these faces. They're all on the back. All I have to do is edge it. So we're just going to create an edge. Now you can put an OG on there. You can do whatever you want decoration-wise to these. I'm leaving it dead plain. I'm just cleaning it up. So I'm just going to check. Nothing's touching the tool rest. We're all good. Lathe speed is 0. Turn the lathe on. Only because I've gone to another diameter. It's a different piece of timber. Ring center stopping the piece from splitting open. Remember, we changed from the single pointed tailstock. Lathe speed wants to come up a wee bit. So now I'm going to come up to 1600. There we are. Handle of your gouge down. Cutting in from the edge. We don't want breakout on this. Just to the halfway point. Then come back from the other way. Put a little radius on there, I think. Check with my finger, just make sure we're all good, and we are. I'm checking with my finger, but I'm checking underneath. So where the timber's running away from me, and just gently. If I don't want to check anywhere near the tool rest because my fingers get caught. There we are. We're all good. So we're happy. How quick was that? So you can see, even if I'm having to do 30 seconds, basically. Lathe speed is 0. Turn the lathe on. And I'm just going to, this is 120 grit, so I'm just going to pop the extraction on, sand that outside edge, get rid of any tearing that there might be. Because that handle's low on the bowl gouge, you don't really get any tearing. It's almost like a skew cut finish. 180 grit. $240. B. That normally goes down the dust extractor. I managed to save it from the extractor. 320 grit. finally 400. Just using the 400 over the holes that were drilled just to clean them up. Turn that off. Lovely and clean. No tears or anything to worry about there. That's the base. Let's do some building. Let's get some of this built. Proper Santa's workshop going on now. We're going to do some tapping of dowel and all sorts of fun things. So let's get our feet. That one we built already. Cone holders, coaster holders, sorry, and another 3 bits of dowel. Dropping them all over the floor again. Oh, another couple of bits of dowel. This is going to go into the bottom of the base. And that one that's dropped on the floor is a good opportunity for me just to show you where we're getting these bits of dowel from. You're never going to buy them the right length. You've got to cut them yourself. There we are. So let's cut another bit of dowel. You've seen this before if you've seen any of the videos in terms of smokers and things. Little V block, bit of dowel. I buy my dowel in a box full. Okay, it's just far more economical to do it that way. Little pull saw. And you can cut as many as you want. Saves you a huge amount of money, I would say. And it's just bespoke. Do whatever you want then. Do whatever size you want. So I can now go in there.
The gentleman woodturner has just asked if you usually wear a Santa's little elf costume when assembling these in private. And I can confirm that you do, and I just wish you bought the size bigger costume because it's a little tight in places, isn't it?
It can be, yeah. There we are, just for Mark. Just whilst I'm putting these together, health and safety says I can't do this when we're turning, but there we are. Pop that on. It's quite a lot of funny looks I get when I'm working in here wearing this. I have to say, lots of kids pointing, lots of adults pointing. There we are. So we're starting to make our carousel. We've got a nice sturdy base. So now, naturally, we've got 2 uprights to create here. We've got the arch already done. So the arch is going to... Where's the done one? There it is. The arch is then going to go on there. So we need to create a stable platform for that. Then we're going to do the actual main platform and the center pin before we move on and upwards. I'm going to take that hat off. It's a really hot hat, Tom. I don't think it's made for the Southwest. Let's pop that down there, out the way, and we're going to do a little bit of spindle turning. So we'll do some uprights. Go out the way. Go out the way. So my spindles, where are my spindles? There they are. So I need to create a couple of them. All right. So just 2 little spindles to raise that platform, or sorry, to raise the archway above the platform. Okay, a couple of bits of birch here. I'll roughly center up, but you be accurate as you want to. As long as they're the same length when they're finished, that's the most important thing. Chuck can come off. We're going to use a pair of friction centers, or a friction drive on a ring center, sorry. Go there. So friction drive. Single pointed tailstock center. You have to be really careful here. I'm using a big wedge basically, and that wedge will split that narrow piece of timber up unless you're careful. Now, there's a good reason I'm not using a ring center on the tailstock end, and that's because the tenon that I need to create on this side is smaller than the ring of the ring center. So we're going to swap this around halfway through the process. Once I've turned the tenon here, I'm going to turn it over to put it inside the ring of the friction drive. So quite a nice way of working this. Speed needs to be high. So when I say high, 2,000 plus. Tiny bit of timber. So we get away with that. There we are. We're going to rough it down to a cylinder with a very blunt skew chisel. Couple of things we need to consider with this. We've got an arch that this is going to sit under. The arch material is coming out at 13 mil, half inch, let's say, as in here. So 13 mil. So what we need to make sure that this doesn't end up being bigger and actually overlapping the edge. It has to be within the diameter or thickness of the material that we're working with. So I'm going to do that to start with. Get a set of calipers, just set them ready so I'm not forgetting anything like that. So 13 mil. So measure my arch. There we are. It's got to be under that. So let's create a tenon. So I'm going to use a little 6 mil beading and parting tool. The tenon has to be to 8 mil, the same diameter as the holes we've drilled, both in the base and the arch. So I've got an 8 mil drill bit. We'll set another set of calipers to that. In the absence of another set of calipers, we're going to use the same ones. So let's do the tenon first. I'll make it about 3 mil deep, as in this way. So 3 mil-ish. There we are, 8 mil. I'm going to take that off, double check that that fits, because it may not. Actually does. So that's good. So now that can be turned over, put within the little ring of that center whilst we turn the other side. Again, the tenon of that side. So again, same size. Let's go about 3 mil. There we go. Right, so now if you remember, 13 mil. So that's going to be the top. The bottom doesn't matter. That's going into a big base. Makes no odds at all. So we can think about shaping. So I'm going to go to a slightly smaller skew. Oh, slightly smaller skew. Little V cut. There we are. Just going to do a couple of little features. I don't really know what I'm doing yet in terms of its shape, but we'll do a bead, and then we'll go into a cove. This needs to be down. So square features are fillets. So we're going to have a nice fillet at the top. We'll go into another V cut. Go half bead. And then let's go to spindle gouge and do a little cove. There we are. Just join up those curves. You get the idea. No, I'm not moving the tool rest around, really. Tool rest high for a skew, tool rest down for gouges. That's the way it works normally, okay? But that's fine. Let's do another one of those nice and quickly. Exactly the same way. I haven't sanded it. I'll sand that later. You don't need to see me sand. It's a little bit boring. Same again. We're doing all right for questions, Tom? All good? Good. So this is birch, remember. We've used oak so far, a couple of different types of oak. So I got a bit of pine for the base. So just down to a cylinder first, and then we'll start measuring. There we are. So let's do first tenon. Really, you want to have a couple of sets of calipers set up. I'm sort of mixing it around a little bit. First tenon, I can eyeball the width. There we go. Then we're going to flip him round within the diameter of that friction drive, that little ring center. We'll do another tenon. There we are. Make sure my tenons are the same. Almost. Yeah. So remember, diameter of the top, the bit that's actually going to impact the arch. So we're going to go with the same as the first one. Go, and then down to the bottom area. So we're down here now. Going to do the same, measure that. That's going to get popped in. So we've got the main perimeters we've got sorted then. We know the diameters. That was already just big enough. So now I can rough down. So let's rough down the top. Rough down the bottom. Put in our fillets. You can pencil mark this, or you can go a little bit more accurate. It's entirely up to you. Yeah, I think we're almost there. Pretty good. We use the spindle gouge. And then blend in. Double check. And that again, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We've got a little nick out of this one. It was a little bit that's fallen off. We're going to pretend that hasn't happened. So we're going to look at that side. Then sand. So they both need to be sanded. I'm going to say obviously, but I don't mean obviously. They will need to be sanded. Happy with those. Get the right camera. Okay. They can be put in position. I'm going to put those in the base off camera a minute. And then we're going to bring over the arch. I'm going to bring them into camera, actually. Pop that up there. The top. There it is. Hiding. That's going to go on there. Let's take it off. Reverse engineer. That was nice and tight. There we are. So far, we've got progress. Okay. Pop that to one side. So next, we've got to do that center the center platform. So we're now on to the actual moving part. So we've got the center. Okay, now that has a hole running all the way through it. And then the main platform that holds all the decoration. So we need to do these two parts. They need to lock together. Center pin travels all the way through that, then down to the little glass bearing. So let's go straight to... Let's go, whilst we're here, I'm going to pop the chuck back on because I was going to say, whilst we're here, we'll turn between centers. However, we have to prep our blank by running a hole all the way through it. So we're going to do that first. Get some of these tools out of our way. And there, so chuck back on. We'll go with the... What jaw shall we use? I think I can get away. I think I can get away with the O'Donnell. Where's my center column? I'm going to use a little bit of oak again for the center column. This needs to be drilled all the way through with a 3mm drill bit. So I'm going to go with the O'Donnells. The reason I was sort of saying what jaw shall I use, I've got a couple of different ones here. I've got the pin jaws at the back here. They're for the really small pieces, but the O'Donnell jaws are my go-tos. As I've said it so many times. When I can use them, I will. So remember, I've already centered up the lathe. I know that everything is running true. The trouble is when you're drilling a small hole on a piece of timber like this, especially oak and ash, those with real strong grain structures, you'll find that the grain will want to grab the drill, especially if it's a twist drill and a small one. If you've got a big drill bit, then they're a little bit easier. They're a bit more rigid. They don't flex so much, so you're going to keep them on track a bit more. But those narrow ones are really, really difficult to keep on track. So I tend to cope with it. First of all, I don't care too much. This is the bottom of the actual piece of turning that I'm making. So this is going to be central because I'm going to hit it centrally. If it veers off, the top tapers down anyway, so I can carry most of the time. I can carry a little bit of error, so we should be okay with that. So there we are. So I'm going to start with a small drill bit. So I've got 2 drill bits for this. First of all, the pilot hole, which is going to be a small stubby drill bit. Let's go to, where do you think, Tom? Yeah, lovely. So a little small stubby bit, and then I've gone to the long drill bit to finish that hole off. If I start with this long bit, it's far too flexible and it'll start wandering around. But so start with a little stubby one first, get that hole drilled. Make sure that you clean your drill frequently. So withdraw, get rid of any swarf. Otherwise, again, if it clogs up, it'll just feed off true. So there we are, we want it nice and rigid. So don't extend that drill out too far, almost like using a center drill, really. There we are. So oak is one of the worst. It just grabs drill bits and just sends them off all different directions. This one's moving a little bit, but it'll be fine. Be fine, Tom.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? There we are.
How many of these have you done recently?
Oh, I nearly said too many. I didn't mean that. Didn't mean too many. A lot. Most things are okay. When you're turning a lot of these, most things are fine until you come to the multiples of 12. Impellers, impeller holders, that sort of thing. They tend to be a little bit of a bore. So drill bits of this size will not take any clogging. If they clog, you'll find that they will just snap. So keep flicking, keep keeping it clear. Don't allow anything to heat up. You've got tinder beneath the lathe. If you have shavings coming out glowing red, it's not going to be a good outcome. We are through. That can come off. Chuck can come away. Let's see how far out this one actually ended up. Oh, a long way. I'm gonna say that's fine. I'm gonna show you why that's fine. That's the furthest out it's been for a long, well, probably ever. But we get away with it. So we're going to go with a light pull drive and a single pointed tailstock center, because we're going to turn around that hole now. We mustn't forget the tenon, central tenon. That's going to bind on to our bottom platform. Look at that. There's slightly out. There's no slightly out there, is there? Nice and quick. Let's get rid of all that. I'm not going to do that with this skew. Ball gouge. Okay, so think about that tenon. When I'm demonstrating these, I very often forget to do the tenon, so that's the reason I'm talking about it a lot. There we are. So that tenon needs to be 8 mil. That's the hole that was drilled in the platform that we're about to make. So I've got that 8 mil drill bit here again. I'll just double check that. Go. That can be cut in. That's our tenon. And now the shape is up to you. We don't need to worry about copying anything here. This is not a copied shape, so let's just do something. So let's go for, we'll go for a bead here, look. Round that over. Another bead there, or half bead, sorry. And this is a nice little taper, so we're just going to taper up to the bead. Little OG. Do not forget you've got a hole running through the middle. It's only 3 mil, but there is a hole.
But it's not through the middle.
Pardon?
It's not through the middle.
Not through the middle. So just a little center column. Again, we won't worry about sanding just for the minute. I can sand that later, but that is going to carry our base. Yes, Tom?
Jim wants to know where you got the long drill bit from.
Well, I got these. This is a Friday afternoon drill bit from Westlands Helicopters. So all their old drill bits, they could only use 2 or 3 times for the high accuracy, the high precision that they required. So yeah, all the scrap ones go to us woodworkers. I was managed to have a friend that was working for them at the time. So he just grabbed me a bundle and I said, thank you very much. If you don't have friends that work at helicopter manufacturers, then online, long series twist drills is all you need to search. Engineering supplies, long series twist drills. You can get them in all lengths. You're huge, great long ones. I used a couple of those for drilling light pools, again, for the same reason. Your regular twist drills just aren't long enough. So center column. Now the base.
Before you go any further, Henry wants to know, could you not go in from both ends drilling?
I have tried it before, but you inevitably don't meet. It's not as accurate. Because we're tapering anyway on that, it didn't really matter. It worked quite well, so it just works better. So what are we doing now? We are doing the platform that this has got to locate into. So back with the chuck. Back with my push plate. Ring sensor. And we have to make a flat plate. That's the bit we're making. It's already planed, so the surfaces are nice and clean. All I need to do is put that on the push plate. That ring center is too big. I'm going to go over to my single pointed center. And we know what we're doing here. We're literally just cleaning up the outside face. There we are. Little bowl gouge or spindle gouge, whichever suits you. Nice and quick. Another different timber here. We've got a bit of Oroco. There we are, down to a true cylinder. Again, sand that. I'm sort of looking at the time now, so I'm going to stop sanding things. But basically, that now is to get sanded to a clean finish like the main base was. Once they're done, then both that spindle that you've just turned and that base can be pushed together. Until they fit. Okay. So right the way through to the bottom. And we know now that we've got that hole running all the way through. So the pins that I made, remember, 3mm silver steel. Okay, that's just going to fit through. Now you put a razor sharp point on that base. So you need to be fairly careful with it. So that's going through. We're going to push until you've got that exposed. Okay, so that's going to come through. We can fit this now. So if we get our, don't know how it's best to see this, Tom. I think maybe camera 3. If I get that out the way.
Cole, do you have any update on Nick? There you go.
At this stage, I'm talking to Nick fairly frequently. We are in the tests area at the moment, so we are still waiting to hear a course of action, a pathway we're calling it at the moment, as to what's going to happen next in terms of treatment. So I think today is one of those days that we're waiting to hear some news. So no, I will fill you all in as I hear something and as I meet with Nick. Glass bearing going in there. Base comes underneath. That fits through. Just watch your fingers. Going to come all the way down through. You only want a small amount exposed, so we're all the way through already. Be careful not to damage that point. A bit too much. There we are, that's about right. So you can see now we've got a nice, it's running free. It's not running nice and smooth, so we're good to go with that one. So that can be put to one side. Now we're going to start thinking about the hub. Yes, I've got one made. However, there are 2 pieces we haven't looked at creating yet, and it's probably 2 of the most important ones. So let's take our chuck off. And I'm going to start doing a hub. The hub to hold the impeller holders. The impeller holders to hold the impellers. Song in there somewhere as well, Tom. Okay, so my preparation for these, my impeller holder, also my hub, beg your pardon, my hub is here. So that's where we are. So it's a 3.5mm hole drilled all the way through. That's so it can fit over the center pin easy without you having to force it down, sort of thing. But it still has enough friction on it to move the seam. So we're going to go back again on this one. I'm not going to start off with a friction drive. I'm going to go into something that can actually grip it quite well. I don't want this to move as I start to drill. The good thing with these Pro drives, though, is they've got a sprung center point. So the actual main point of it here is sprung. So as I push against it, that will then sink into the timber. So I'm going to pick up the hole. Then I'm going to wind into the hole the other side. And my first job really is just to get the rough shape. So the hub I need to make is of that shape. Okay, so a little flying saucer basically, and we need to create these holes running all the way around the outside. This is a separate finial that goes on top. Okay, but just those little points. So down to a cylinder, quite high speed-wise. It's a small piece. There we are. That's running at 2,000 revs. And I'm just going to rough down to a cylinder first. There we are. When this is finished, when all the holes have been placed in position, this area can be tidied up later. That's not an important one for the moment. Just around to the hole. So this is going to be the bottom. This is the top. The finial is going to fit on there. I can clean up the very bottom there just with a skew. There we go. And I won't sand at this point because we're going to drill a series of holes running around here. If you sand afterwards, you can clean up the entry holes, so that works better. So now we're just going to add a little drill jig. So the drill jig I'm using here is just a wooden one that I've made to the right diameter to fit into my banjo. We're going with a 5mm drill bit, so a little bit smaller. Yes, Tom.
Mike wants to know, do you find the grub screws come loose on the Pro Drive?
You got to keep on top of them, yes. So the locking grub screw, that one needs to be pinched up quite regularly. So I probably do that once a week every time I'm going to it. But the internal one, I'll vary that quite often depending on how much strength I want from it. So yeah, you just got to be mindful of it really. I know I get where you're coming from with it. 5mm. You got our drill. And what we'll need to do now, I want to make sure I'm drilling on center point, so I can set that up. My drill through. Just using the points of the centers, look. Get my center point. I mean, you can take the piece out of the lathe if you want, just to make sure. Because I change the holes so many times and as they get used and abused. There we are. So we're on the right height. So now I need to work out how deep. And the depth really is, I tend to use the drill itself. So what I mean by that is if I put that through, hopefully you can see what I mean here. If I bring this right up, get them in the right position. I'm looking at the back of the drill. You can just see that on the camera. So the gap that I've got there is going to be how deep we go in to the hub. So a little bit deeper, about there. Central. Yeah, I'm central. So that's in the right place. The next thing I need to do is lock up my first position. So look, I've already made it a little bit easier on myself. I put a little graduation running around to 12 positions. I've got 12 on this one. Some of the carousels I know have got 11, some got 13, but I'm sticking to 12. I've marked that out to where my lathe locks. So it's nice, quick identification for me. So what I can do, let's go to drill. One. Can move to the next graduation. Next graduation. Ever so quick when you've got everything mapped out. I would spend the small amount of time it takes to do this, because it'll take you probably about 5 minutes to work it out, and it saves you so much time on all of your other drilling points. And lip and spur bit, don't be tempted to use a twist drill. Even if they're cheaper, they will create problems. Lip and spur or brad point bits are clean, really clean. Now we're just running out of time a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is not do the decorations for these, but when it comes to a couple of weeks' time, when we do the nativity, you'll get a good idea then. Hopefully by then you've had a chance to make one, a carousel. You can then think about the decorations. We're getting there now. Almost. Is this the last one? Yep, that's the last one. So let's have a good look around. You've got those really equal graduations. If I put a lick of paper, the lick of abrasive around there. Just so you can see how clean and ready to go that hub is. Really nice way of working. Homemade, just a piece of good dense timber. That's a piece of oak. You can see how many times I've re-drilled it to the next one. But it works so, so well. Okay, so that's the hub. Let's say then we've done that. And then you're just going to remount that, put a little light pull drive in there, and just turn and clean up that finish. Okay, that end. Let's just very, very quickly. Very quickly. Tom's got sheep to put away, so we've got to get a move on.
They'll be asleep now, mate.
Will they? There we are. Clean that up. That's all ready now for the little finial on the top. We're going to keep that there because next we got one more piece to do for you before I let you go. And that one piece is the impeller holder. We've done the laborious bit of drilling all of those holes around that edge. So now we're just going to go and make an impeller holder. The way this starts, now if I get one of the finished impellers here, look, the way this starts is, or where we want to end up, is a clamping mechanism for the impellers themselves, plus a tenon that's going to fit into the hub that we just made here. Okay, so to start with that, what I tend to do is cut a series of these blanks. Okay, the slot is gauged by just moving, and this is all done on the bandsaw, moving the rip fence of your bandsaw until it cuts the right channel. So basically, you push it in one way, you flip it over, and you push it in the other. So you're making a couple of cuts that are wide enough to eventually hold the ply or the timber that you're going to hold within it. And it needs to hold quite, with a fair amount of grip. But once you've done that, you need 6 per carousel. Then you can start thinking about the turning itself. I overthought this. I thought this is a real problem to begin with, and it isn't. It doesn't break. It doesn't fracture, he says. Should do that. Say that once he's finished. Nice quick speed. Round to a cylinder. And you're going to do a number of these, so you really want to set yourself up with a little shadow board. In the absence of that, I'm just going to put a pencil mark with the one that I've got here. And we're first of all going to cut the tenon. So remember, 5mm we're looking at. So my set of calipers with the drill bit that we've just used, which is still in the drill. So I'm just measuring the drill bit that's here. So the one that we've just used to drill the holes in the hub. Then with my little parting tool. Whoa! What did I say? That completely split. Oh, we'll carry on with this. We'll pretend that didn't happen. So a little tenon. Down to 5mm. And then your spindle gouge. Just taper down. And sand. Not the tenon, but the main holder. And then part off. And then move on to your next one. But then look, you have that lovely little impeller holder. Okay, actually, I can get away with that. It's a little bit of a flat on that side. That's going to hold my impeller. Now, what I like to do with these, because it is a really, really strong fit. So just get that abrasive on the inside. Just take away any fibers there might be. There we are. Because the worst thing is, you don't want to pop it in there and it splits everything open. There we are, right the way up, and we've got that lovely impeller holder. That in turn then goes into the hub that we've just made. Okay, at that nice angle. All right, so everything there we've literally just done. So let's get everything out of our way.
Cole, do you have any plans for the nativity that people can buy?
I don't at the moment. The next plan that we're working on actually is the Nutcracker. So no, I don't. Join us next time though, and you'll see exactly how we make it. That's the plan. There we are. So we've done that. We've done the top. Let's say we're going to crown this one with one that I made earlier. That one's going to go on. So even though we didn't do everything today, we pretty much done most of it. There we are. And it's turning without doing anything at the moment. I've got no heat under that. It's turning with some fan that's in the room anyway. Phew. That was a big one, Tom. That was a long one. There's a lot of things to do there. And turning really, really nicely as well. That's the whole thing with these. The least amount of friction, the better. And that needle, that point needs to be really pointed. Glass bearings, metal bearings, ceramic bearings, anything like that will work. But certainly you need a non-friction type of bearing. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Don't forget, we're going to do the nativity in a fortnight's time. Any questions before we disappear, Tom? I'm sorry I've kept you a little bit longer on this one, so we've overrun by a considerable amount of time, but it did take a little bit more to get the message across, as it were. Re-look the video back if anything you're unsure about. Send me any questions you have, but I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time when we come to do our nativity. Don't forget, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. It really does mean a difference. It tells us that we're doing the right thing. But if we're not, then just leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel, of course, and don't forget to hit the notifications button so that you see when we're going to be doing another live. So I'll see you in a fortnight along with Tom for our nativity. So until then, bye-bye.